Chapter 10 Functions in Python. Chapter Outline. In this chapter, you will learn meaning and use of functions in Python, different Python functions and their types, difference between creating a function and calling a function in Python, understand the concept of list in Python. KB. Ambi, thanks for teaching me how to use Python codes to draw desired shapes. Ambi, it's okay, KB. KB, is there a shortcut on Python to save steps used repeatedly in different codes? Ambi, yes, these are called functions. KB, are these similar to the functions we have studied in Excel? Ambi, yes, KB. In Excel, we use functions for performing operations on data. In Python, functions are subcodes developed to be used as part of different codes. Let me tell you about these detail so that you can understand the difference between the two. Functions in Python. A function is a block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single related action. It is a block of code that is designed to perform a specific task. It can be called as many times as required, saving the time and effort of the programmer to rewrite the same code again. Function helps to break the program into smaller and modular group of codes. As the program grows larger and larger, functions make it more organized and manageable. Furthermore, it avoids repetition and makes the code reusable. Parts of Python function. A Python function consists of the following parts. Function name. The function name should be unique and easy to relate with the task it will perform. Arguments. The inputs given to the functions are known as arguments. A function may or may not have any arguments. Statements. The executable instructions in a function are called statements. Return value. After the execution, a function may or may not return a value. Advantages of using functions. Python functions have following advantages. Using functions, we can avoid rewriting the same code again and again in a program. Functions reduce the execution time period of our program. We can call Python functions multiple times in a program. Reusability is the main purpose of Python functions. Creating a function. Python provides the def keyword to define the function. The syntax of the defined function is given below. Syntax: def my underscore function parameters, function underscore block return expression. Rules for creating a function. The def keyword along with the function name is used to define the function. The identifier rule must follow the function name. A function accepts the parameter, argument, and they can be optional. The function block is started with the colon, and block statements must be at the same indentation. The return statement is used to return the value. A function can have only one return value. Types of functions in Python. There are mainly two types of functions in Python. User-defined functions. The user-defined functions are defined by the user to perform the specific task. Built-in functions. The functions that are already defined in Python are called built-in functions. For example, print, input, len, range, and many more. Let us now learn about these types in detail. User-defined functions. Functions that we define ourselves to do certain specific tasks are referred to as user-defined functions. Functions that are already embedded in Python libraries are called built-in functions. If we use functions written by others in the form of library, it can be termed as library functions. All other functions that we write on our own fall under user-defined functions. So, our user-defined function could be a library function to someone else. For example, to find the sum of two numbers by calling sum function, type the code as shown in figure 10.1. Built-in functions. Python has several functions that are readily available for use. These functions are called built-in functions. Function use. Python abs returns absolute value. Python all returns true when all elements in iterable are true. Python any checks if any element of an iterable is true. Python sc returns string containing printable representation. Python bin converts integer to binary string. Python bool converts a value to boolean. Python byte array returns array of given byte size. Python bytes returns immutable bytes object. Python callable checks if the object is callable. Python chr returns a character, a string, from an integer. Python class method returns class method for given function. Python compile returns a Python code object. Python complex creates a complex number. Python delater deletes attribute from the object. Python diet creates a dictionary. Python dir tries to return attributes of object. Python div mode returns a tuple of questioned and remainder. Python enumerate returns an enumerate object. Python eval runs Python code within program. Python executes dynamically created program. Python filter constructs iterator from elements which are true. Python float returns floating point number from number. Python format returns formatted representation of a value. Python help invokes the built-in help system. Python hex converts to integer to hexadecimal. Python ID returns identifier of an object. Python input reads and returns a line of string. Python int returns integer from a number or string. Python len returns length of an object. Python list creates a list in Python. Python max returns the largest item. Python min returns the smallest value. Python next retrieves next item from the iterator. Python object creates a featureless object. Python act returns the octal representation of an integer. Python open returns a file object. Python print prints the given object. Python property returns the property attribute. Python range returns sequence of integers between start and stop. Python wrapper returns a printable representation of the object. Python reversed returns the reversed iterator of a sequence. Python round rounds a number to specified decimals. Python set constructs and returns a set. Python setatter sets the value of an attribute of an object. Python slice returns a slice object. Python sorted returns a sorted list from the given iterable. Python stir returns the string version of the object. Python sum adds items of an iterable. Python super returns a proxy object of the base class. Python tuple returns a tuple. Calling a function in Python. Once we have defined a function, we can call it from another function, program, or even the Python prompt. To call a function, we simply type the function name with appropriate parameters. In Python, the function definition should always be present before the function call, otherwise we will get an error. For example, def func print world of computers func. The return statement. The return statement is used at the end of the function that returns the result of the function. It terminates the function execution and transfers the result at the location where the function is called. The return statement cannot be used outside of the function. Syntax. Return expression underscore list. It contains the expression which gets evaluated and value is returned to the caller function. If the return statement has no expression or does not exist itself in the function, then it returns the none object. Example 1. Hashtag defining function def sum A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, C is equal to A plus B, return C. Hashtag calling sum function in print statement print. The sum is sum. Output, the sum is 30. Example 2. Creating function without return statement. Hashtag defining function def sum A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, C is equal to A plus B. Hashtag calling sum function in print statement print sum. Output none. Arguments in function. The arguments are types of information which can be passed into the function. The arguments are specified in the parentheses. We can pass any number of arguments, but they must be separate with a comma. Consider the following example, which contains a function that accepts a string as the argument. For example, hashtag Python function to calculate the sum of two variables. Hashtag defining function def sum A, B, return A plus B. Hashtag taking values from the user. A is equal to int, input, enter A. B is equal to int, input, enter B. Hashtag printing the sum of A and B. Print sum is equal to sum A, B. Output, enter A is to 10, enter B is to 20, sum is equal to 30. List in Python. A list in Python is used to store a sequence of different types of data. A list can be defined as a collection of items of different types, separated by comma and enclosed within the square brackets. Lists are the most commonly used data types in Python. A list can be defined as below. L1 is equal to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. L2 is equal to guinea, hero, 10, 20. A list has the following characteristics. The lists are ordered. The elements of the list can be accessed using index number. The lists are the mutable type, that is, the elements of the list can be changed. A list can store the number of different types of elements. Accessing list elements. The elements in a list can be accessed one by one using a unique number known as index number. An index number is assigned to each element in a list. The first index is 0, the second index is 1, the third is true, and so on. Python allows both negative and positive indexing for accessing the individual items in the list. In positive indexing, the first item on the list is assigned 0 as the index number, and each item on the right has an index number of +1. For example, figure 10.2 shows the code for positive indexing of list elements. In negative indexing, the last item on the list is assigned -1 as the index number, and each item on the right will have an index number of -1 less than the previous index number. For example, figure 10.3 shows the code for negative indexing of list elements. Adding elements in the list. Let us learn about some of the built-in functions used to add elements in the list in Python. Using append function. The append function is used for adding the elements to the list to the end of the list. It will accept only one element at a time. Syntax: list_name.append item. For example, figure 10.4 shows the use of append function to add elements to a list. Using extend function. The extend function will accept the list of elements and add them at the end of the list. It can accept multiple elements at a time. We can also add another list as an element using this function. Syntax: list_name.extend iterable value. For example, figure 10.5 shows the use of extend function to add elements to a list. Using insert function. The insert function is used to add an item at a specific place in the list. Syntax: list_name.insert index_no item. For example, figure 10.6 shows the use of insert function to add elements to a list. Removing elements from the list. Let us learn about some of the built-in functions used for removing the elements from the list in Python using del keyword. We can remove specific items or the complete list using del keyword. Syntax: del list underscore name value. For example, figure 10.7 shows the use of del function to remove elements from a list. Using remove function. The remove function is used to delete items from the list. Syntax: list underscore name dot remove item. For example, figure 10.8 shows the use of remove function to remove elements from a list. Using pop function. The pop function is used to delete an item from a specific location in the list. Syntax: list underscore name dot pop index underscore number. For example, figure 10.9 shows the use of pop function to remove elements from a list. List slicing. List slicing is used to extract out the list from the given list. Indexes or the elements are used to create list slices. For example, figure 10.9 shows the code for slicing a list. List functions. Let us learn about some of the built-in functions used with list in Python. Count function. The count function is used to count the number of elements in the list. For example, figure 10.10 shows the code for use of count function. Sort function. The sort function is used to sort a list in ascending or descending order. For example, figure 10.11 shows the use of sort function. Reverse function. The reverse function reverses the order of the list. For example, figure 10.12 shows the use of reverse function. Tech terms. Functions in Python: block of organized, reusable code that is used to perform a single related action. Arguments in Python: types of information which can be passed into the function. List in Python: collection of items of different types separated by comma and enclosed within the square brackets.